my friend. Welcome back to my kitchen here at tbsp Homestead. My name is Kelsey. If this is your first time hanging out, welcome. We're gonna be working with the most recent harvest from my garden in this video. We're gonna be doing a little bit of preserving like we normally do in these videos, but I wanna focus a bit more this week on how I am using the produce from the garden in our meals, in what we're eating throughout the week. So we're gonna have a few different meals, some breakfast and dinner, and also some snack type items. So a bit more of a what we eat in a week using things from the garden. So the first thing I'm gonna share with you today is a refreshing summertime drink. We're gonna make some basil tea. I grow a whole bunch of different herbs here on our homestead for teas, both just for the flavor, for the refreshment, and also for medicinal purposes. Today we're just doing one for fun, for the flavor. So this is cinnamon basil is lovely in a tea. I like to combine it with, I have blood orange tea bags here. You could also just throw in some oranges into the simmer pot. You could combine it with any sort of flavor you think would be good. I just really like the cinnamon basil with the blood orange tea bags. It's a really great combination. So my tea making process is pretty much the same all around. There might be a little bit of a difference if I'm using certain medicinal herbs. We're not worrying about that today. I'm just gonna strip the leaves off of these stems here, and I'm going to simmer these in a pot of water. I don't really measure. I'll see if I can get a roundabout measurement for you. I just kind of eyeball it. And then I'll throw in some of the blood orange tea bags. And I will let that simmer for like 15-20 minutes or until the flavor is to my liking, and then we'll sweeten it up. I have tried many different types of basil in basil tea. I think the one year I grew like 12 different varieties of basil. I have narrowed it down to two that I really enjoy, and that is the cinnamon basil, but also Tulsi or holy basil. Those are my two favorites when it comes to basil. I also grow a whole bunch of mint, so I have mountain mint, mojito mint, I have banana mint, chocolate mint, orange mint, and apple mint, and I love all of them equally in teas. I also love pineapple sage, lemon balm, and you can have fun with it and do different combinations and do some fresh herbs and some tea bags and find the combination you really enjoy. So I love this cinnamon basil and orange tea combo. So I have, it's just my Dutch oven here, and you can use any pot. I have it about half full. There's about 8 cups in here. Okay, I'm trying to get you somewhat of a measurement. This is probably a loosely packed cup of cinnamon basil leaves. I'm putting them right in here. And then I have 3 tea bags of the blood orange tea. So those will go in here as well. I'm gonna bring this up to a boil, and then I'm going to turn down the heat, allow it to simmer covered for 15 to 20 minutes. And then we will allow it to cool down, and we'll add some sweetener. We are now going to start on tonight's dinner. It's a bit early in the day, but I have somewhere to be tonight, and I want to have this ready to go before I need to leave. So one of my favorite things to make during the hot summer months is a simple bowl. It's just a bunch of whole food ingredients thrown together in individual bowls, and then I usually bring it together with some sort of sauce. So tonight we're doing a Greek bowl variation. I have some chicken thawing. I'll season that up with some Greek seasoning. And then we're gonna make a tzatziki sauce with the cucumbers from the garden. We'll add some shallot from the garden. We're gonna chop up some tomatoes from the garden, and then I'll throw in some chickpeas. And usually any of like the bowl dinners I make have some sort of base, either rice, couscous, or quinoa. And for the Greek bowl, I thought the couscous would go well. So we're gonna get some of that on the stovetop too. So to get started on our sauce, I have peeled the cucumbers, totally not necessary, just our preference. And I'm gonna take the ends off. This bigger one here, I'm gonna slice open and just see how many seeds are in there. Again, it's just a preference. If you don't like a lot of seeds, you can remove them. And then we're just gonna finely dice this up. I like a little bit of crunch, but not overly huge pieces. So I'm gonna remove these big seeds and get this diced up. Cucumbers diced, setting them off to the side. We're gonna mix together the rest of our ingredients. So I'm gonna eyeball this here. As always, I will list ingredients and recipe instructions down in the description. I'm gonna add about 1.5 cups of full fat plain Greek yogurt. That is our main ingredient. Depending on how much of a garlic lover you are, you can just add to your heart's desire, but I'm gonna do the equivalent of about 2 cloves minced garlic, about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and we need some lemon juice. 1 to 2 tablespoons depending on how much you like that lemon flavor. And grab some of these seeds, get them out of there. Probably, I'll just do 1/2 of a fresh lemon. Okay, we'll mix this up. Now we're gonna set all of this aside into the fridge until I'm ready to serve. And then before I put our tzatziki sauce on our dish, I'm gonna add in the cucumber as well as some dill. If you do that too early, it can kind of just overwhelm the other flavors. I like to allow these some time to marinate in the fridge and then add the other things a bit later. Let's prep some things now for our meal. Some more things from the garden. I have a shallot here. You could use red onion or any onion. I'll just quarter these. Throw in some extra cucumbers too. Okay, dinner is for the most part prepped. I still have to cook up some couscous and get that on the stove. I'm waiting for the chicken to thaw before we can season and cook. The tea is still simmering. Very soon we can strain that out and sweeten it up. So while we wait, we're gonna work on these guys. This is my tomatillo harvest from the garden. We're gonna make a tomatillo salsa or a salsa verde. So if you are unfamiliar with a tomatillo, which I believe directly translated is just little tomato, they're actually more closely related to like a ground cherry or like a Chinese lantern with these husks on the outside. You just peel away and you pick off. That's what they look like. They're really dense and firm. They stay green like this greenish yellow color. And their flavor is honestly all their own. It's somewhat sweet, also kind of sour, little tart. They just pair really well with like cilantro and lime, so they're great in a salsa. But they are a part of the nightshade family, so somewhat related to a tomato. I am doing a roasted salsa verde. It's from the all-new Ball Book of Canning and Preserving, page 167, the roasted salsa verde there. This one, you don't have to chop them up. There's another recipe on the Ball site I was thinking of, but I want to do this one. This one has just more depth of the flavor from the roasting. So all I'm going to do, I'm doubling this recipe, so instead of 4 pounds of tomatillos, I have 8 pounds from the garden. I'm going to put them, like the stem side down, on this tray. I might have to do 2 trays. And then we're going to add in some onions, some garlic, and some peppers, all from the garden. I love when that happens, when I can use everything from the garden in a recipe. Just chopped up this onion. I didn't even chop it, I wedged it. It's incredibly potent. I am bawling my eyes out over here. This recipe is so nice because there's like not really any prep work you have to do. Just throw a couple things together on a tray, roast it up, and then you're gonna put it in a food processor, bring it back up to a boil and throw it in some jars. So it's really simple, but really, really flavorful. So I have 8 pounds tomatillos. I'll tell you what it is for one batch. It's 4 pounds tomatillos, husks removed, washed. 2 medium-sized white onions, each cut into wedges. 2 jalapenos or serrano peppers. Now when canning, a pepper is a pepper, so it doesn't matter what variety you use. I have jalapenos. They're still gonna add some flavor, just no heat. So if you do want heat, use a hot pepper. 6 garlic cloves peeled. And then you'll need a 1/2 cup of lime juice. It doesn't specify fresh or bottled. It does say about 6 limes, so I'm guessing that means fresh then. And then a 1/4 cup of coarsely chopped fresh cilantro. Like I always say with a seasoning or an herb, that's not a safety element, that's flavor. If you don't like cilantro, you can totally leave it out. And I don't know that I actually have enough cilantro for a double batch, so I'm just gonna put some in. And then you need some salt and pepper. 2 teaspoons salt and a teaspoon of pepper. Really simple. So right now we're just getting tomatillos, peppers, onions, and garlic on a tray. I don't believe the cilantro goes in right now. Where are you? No, that happens later. So right now it's just those 4 ingredients. We're gonna roast them at 425 Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes until the garlic is softened. Remove garlic from baking sheet. Continue to bake everything else for about another 15 minutes or until the onion is tender and the tomatillos and the peppers are slightly charred. All right, the tea is now done simmering. I'm gonna allow it to cool just a little bit before I go ahead and strain that and put it into a container. We got a little bit of time before our veggies are roasted in the oven. The chicken is just about there, so we'll get back to dinner here in a second. I'm just transferring some of my berries again into bags from freezing, flash freezing in the freezer. We're gonna make, I think I should have time yet tonight to make a breakfast dish for tomorrow. We've been eating a lot of eggs recently. I haven't been super great about like meal prepping or having things ready for breakfast, so it's just been a lot of just eggs, some sort of meat, and some toast. Not that we don't like that, we do, and we eat it a whole lot, but it's nice to just mix it up every once in a while, and we're like to the point where it's like, okay, we've been eating this for weeks on end, now let's just switch it up. So I have so many fresh berries coming in. I want to make like a berry lemon bread pudding. We love that stuff. So we're gonna do that a bit later. But I need to get a few things done here in between, always trying to use my time wisely where I have little bits of time, you know, looking for things that need tended to that don't take a whole lot of time, and this is one of them. So let's go check on the chicken. Let's get our couscous going. We'll strain some tea, and then a little bit later we'll work on a nice breakfast. 1 more gallon of mixed berries going into the freezer. I always feel so rich when I put these things into the freezer because this is a lot of money at the grocery store, and this is why I do what I do. This is why I grow so much, because like this stuff at the store really adds up. I had a one-time investment of a whole bunch of berry plants, which honestly keep on giving. You don't have to buy them all at once. Within a year or 2, you will have more than you know what to do with, and you get like a ton of berries. You are berry rich. Okay, chicken. Got them under there, just something over the top so they don't splatter. I didn't feel like taking out my saran wrap. I get the big box of it from Costco, and it doesn't fit anywhere nicely in my kitchen, so I have to tuck it away, and it's always a pain to get it out. So I'm just being lazy today. All right, I have 2 chicken breasts here, pounded thin and even. That's the key, in my opinion, to having a really nice tender chicken, not dried out. I mean, who wants dried out chicken breast? So that they just cook more evenly. One end doesn't end up cooking quicker than the other. Now this is just some probably not great for you Greek seasoning that I have in my cabinet. Yeah, it's not great for you, but I have it. I'm going to use it. I need to just make my own. It doesn't actually say exactly what blend it is, but there's 13 spices in here. So I'm just gonna use this tonight. I'm gonna put this on here pretty generously, and we're just gonna fry this up in some cast iron until it's nice and golden brown on each side, and it should be cooked to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That's another tip I'd have. If you ever have dry chicken, just make sure you're not overcooking it. I always use a meat thermometer if I'm unsure, and at the thickest part it should be 165 degrees. Time for some couscous. If you don't know what that is, it's pasta. It's just itty bitty little pieces of pasta. I love it. I love the texture of it. So obviously there's gluten in there, so if you're gluten-free, you'll want to use quinoa or some rice. So I'm just going to do 1 cup water, 1 cup couscous, and then I'll do like a tablespoon of olive oil and a pinch of salt. Bring it to a boil, and then cover, simmer for about 5 minutes, fluff it, and you're good to go. All right, time to strain out the tea. Well, I made a huge mess. So while I clean up my mess here, I like to sweeten this with honey. About 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup, depending on how sweet you like things. You can use sugar. I have not tried like maple syrup before. I have done like coconut sugar or maple sugar, but I haven't tried straight maple syrup. It's gonna definitely give it a different flavor. I love it with the honey. Now I like to let it cool down some, so we don't kill off all of the benefits of the honey. And you will need it to be warm. Honey does not mix in anything cold. Maybe that's a well-known fact, but I had to learn that one. Oops, sorry, went through the camera. I had to learn that one the hard way, and I was left with a big old clump of wasted honey in the bottom. If you've never tried basil tea, I encourage you to try. I was very pleasantly surprised the first time I had it, and now it's something I look forward to each summer. But if you're not a basil person, another combo I really enjoy is some mojito mint tea mixed with my homemade strawberry syrup. It is so, so good. So there's our dinner for tonight. Lots of stuff from the garden, some good whole food ingredients, very nutritious, super refreshing. And this time of year when I'm busy, it's very quick and easy to put together. Now that our veggie mixture here is cooled down a bit, I removed as much of the skins from the peppers as I could. The recipe said to do that. So now I'm just gonna grab this here. We're just gonna work in small batches in the food processor and blend this all together. Back to the stove top. Ooh, that's hot back there. Oven being on. Back to the stove top now. I'm gonna turn this up. We're gonna bring it back to a boil. We're gonna add the rest of our ingredients. To our veggie mixture, in goes the cilantro, lime juice, some salt, and some black pepper. I'm just gonna bring this to a simmer, and then I'm gonna grab my canning pot and get this party started. These get filled to a 1/2-inch headspace and processed in a water bath canner for 20 minutes. Let's make some bread pudding. I cubed up some loaves of bread. You'll need 1 loaf per recipe, and we're gonna toast them. That just helps them, get some texture, retain their shape a little bit, even after they absorb all of the liquid. So after they're toasted, I'm going to douse them in some melted butter and give them a good toss. For the custard, we have some lemon zest and a combination of whole milk and some heavy cream. Of course, some vanilla. I need to make some more. I do have some brewing, but I've been using it so quickly. I've been doing more baking than I usually do this time of year. I need to replenish the stockpile. Cracked in some eggs, added some coconut sugar, whatever type of sugar you use, and give it a good whisk. I am doubling the recipe as usual. I like to make an extra one for the freezer. I am buttering the sides, and we're going to start layering. We're going to use half of the bread cubes on the bottom, and we're going to pack them down pretty firmly. You want a nice even layer. Now you add a layer of your fruit of choice. You can totally make it your own. I currently have some blackberries and some raspberries coming in from the garden. We finish off the top with another layer of the bread cubes, again pressing them down pretty firm. And then I'm just going to add the custard over the top, making sure to push down any pieces of bread or fruit that are poking up above the top. You want everything completely submerged underneath the custard. These will bake at 375 degrees for about 50 minutes or until the center is set. Eat as is, top with some maple syrup or some powdered sugar. I also think if you had some lemon curd on hand, that would be lovely. Another day, we're gonna keep working at using up everything that was on my dining room table from this past harvest. Time to work with some beets. We're gonna get them washed up and trimmed. We are going to make a batch of beet kvass. It's the first time I've ever made this. I looked at a bunch of recipes. I think I know what I'm doing the first time, but we shall see. Just a small jar today because honestly, I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. I don't want to waste a whole bunch of beets on it. So if you're unsure of what beet kvass is, I will explain. So beet kvass is a fermented drink. It's probiotic rich. It's also an excellent blood tonic. It promotes regularity, aids in digestion, alkalizes the blood, cleanses the liver. It's a good treatment for kidney stones and a bunch of other things. Not only is it filled with a bunch of electrolytes, so it's going to hydrate better than a water would. The nutritional value of the beets alone are just amazing. Now, I looked at a whole bunch of different recipes. All of them are just slightly different, but it seems it's quite easy to achieve. So I'm just slicing up some beets, no need to peel them, and I am filling my jar about 1/3 to halfway full, topping off with filtered water, leaving an inch of space. I added 1 tablespoon of mineral-rich salt. A lot of the recipes called for whey or some liquid from a previous ferment. It's not necessary, but it will speed up the process. I did have a little bit of liquid from my batch of sauerkraut I had going, so I did add that in. It says after it ferments for about 3 to 5 days or up to a week. You can taste it along the way and see how you like it. You can then add some flavoring like cinnamon or ginger or even some honey. Now, I used a quart-sized jar, so if you're using a different size, you're going to have to adjust the salt. If you ever have issues with your ferments developing mold on the top, most likely you don't have enough salt. I have heard that any like white mold, little fuzzy spots is like not super alarming. You can just skim that off, but if there's any funky colored mold, then that's definitely want to get rid of that one. So I've heard this is very delicious even if you don't like beets. I have not tried it yet, but when I do, I will let you know. With the remainder of the beets, I'm going to boil these until they are tender. And I'm also going to boil some of the purple potatoes we harvested a few videos back. We're going to make a breakfast hash later on in the week, and I want to get these 2 things prepped. Chipping away at that table full of a harvest, we're going to work with some eggplants. I am just removing the top and slicing in half. We're going to roast these in the oven. We're going to drizzle with a little bit of olive oil, roast at 375 degrees. For mine, I had some small little ones. It took about 30 minutes until it was nice and tender, but it's just going to depend on the size of the eggplants you're using. We are going to make some baba ganoush, which is a dip. I believe it's Lebanese, and it's something I wanted to try for a while. That was actually my main purpose for growing these eggplants, that and eggplant parmesan. While the eggplant roasts, we're going to get some tomatoes ready for the freezer. Always trying to use my time wisely. I had a few tomatoes from the garden, not quite enough for a batch of sauce yet. So I wash them up, I core them, and I stick them into either a freezer bag. Honestly, I've just used grocery bags in the past, and I keep them in there until I have enough for a big batch of tomato sauce. I have 2 heads of cabbage here. This smaller one I am just going to chop up and freeze dry to put in soups over the cooler months. This bigger one here, I'm going to try and carefully remove the bigger outer leaves, and we're going to make some halupki for dinner tonight. So those are cabbage rolls stuffed with ground beef and some rice, covered in a tomato sauce. Super yummy. It's a big thing we eat around here. Now, I usually submerge the entire head of cabbage into a pot of boiling water. It just makes removing the leaves a bit easier, but I wasn't really having a super hard time getting some of the outer leaves off, so I just went with this, and then I did go ahead and I boiled those leaves for just a little while, maybe like 2 minutes, just to get them nice and pliable and easy to work with. Eggplants are done, so we're going to scoop out the flesh and into a food processor. Baba ganoush is honestly very similar to hummus, just without the chickpeas. Instead of chickpeas, we have eggplant. Now I'm just doing this to taste because I had a small amount of eggplant, but I added some garlic and lemon juice. We're going to add tahini. That is another one of the main ingredients. It's just a sesame seed puree. We'll also add some salt, some pepper, some cumin. You could add some paprika if you'd like. I had some fresh parsley from the garden, and then we'll add a good splash of olive oil. Like I said, I did this entirely to taste. I just kept adding until I liked the flavor of it. But as always, I'll put a recipe down in the description for you. So I had all of those shishito peppers, more than I honestly know what to do with, those and the pepperoncini. So I decided with the baba ganoush, I was just going to blister some of these shishito peppers, get them nice and charred on each side, not cooking them too much. You still want them to hold their shape. Put some salt on them. I have to say I really loved the baba ganoush. I would definitely make that again. However, I can't say like I really loved the shishito. I didn't think there was anything special about it. Don't hate me for saying that. I know there's some people who really love their shishito peppers, but I just felt like they were any other pepper. Maybe I'm just not a pepper connoisseur, but they were fine. I just don't think I would have to grow them again. Another breakfast for you, a really simple one. One thing I love to do in the summer months when the produce is coming in heavily, I like to make a hash with whatever I have available. So we took those prepared beets and purple potatoes from earlier, also threw in some shallots, got them all nice and golden brown, potatoes just a little bit crispy, made a few wells, and then cracked in some of our eggs from the ladies, pop it underneath the broiler. Get your eggs as done as you like them. We like over easy. Sprinkle with some fresh parsley. Serve with a side of meat. We chose bacon. Talk about color here. So beautiful. Very nutritious, simple, and quick. On to our last recipe. Let's make some Halupkis or cabbage rolls. I'm sure they're called other things in other areas. Maybe when I say blind pigeons is another one. We eat them honestly quite often. They're a staple around these parts. So I have 2 pounds of ground beef, cracked in 2 eggs, half cup of pepper of choice. I used some more shishito because I had them, a half cup of onion, some fresh parsley, 1 cup of uncooked rice, a good bit of salt and pepper. We're going to wrap our mixture into prepared cabbage leaves. I like to take out that like harder vein there at the end. That's just my own preference. Take a good helping of it, maybe a half cup, somewhere around there. However much will fit into whatever size cabbage leaves you have, and then roll it up like a burrito. Now you can make a deconstructed version of this if you want, or if for some reason all of your cabbage leaves just fall apart, just chop them up and mix everything together. For the sauce, I take 1 can of diced tomatoes, about 20 ounces of home canned tomato sauce, some coconut sugar, some onion powder, garlic powder, salt and pepper. Mix that all up, and then we'll put a little bit into the bottom of our baking dish. Add our prepared Halupkis onto the sauce. Repeat until all of your mixture and leaves are used up. And then we're going to pour the rest of the sauce on top. This bakes at 375 degrees for about 1 hour and 10 minutes. Thanks, sweet friends, for hanging out with me. We made a big dent in using and preserving some of the harvest from this past week. Hopefully gave you a little bit of inspiration if you're looking for ways to use up the produce from your garden or the farmer's market or the store that's currently in season. Any questions you may have, please let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That helps me out so much. I appreciate you being here. You have a blessed week, and I will see you next time. Take care.